anybody believes that, I feel bad for you. And then in the next slide, you can kind of see that I know a conspiracy is out there. It should be dead already, but it's called Project Bluebeam. I still see this all over the internet in comments. So in the next image I'll show you is an example of I believe is an example of Project Bluebeam. And there was this castle in the clouds over China or something. Clearly, to me, it's obvious that that's what that is. It's Bluebeam. They're projecting some sort of castle in the sky to see how people react to it. That is not going to be nearly good enough for what they're going to have to do if we're going to see alien craft like there's on the left, big ships coming, subjugating our air. So I just think my personal opinion of Geisinger Unfiltered is Project Bluebeam is long dead. They have the ability to make craft now. From reverse engineering saucer craft all the way back to the 50s to now. They can have their own fleet and they can masquerade them as aliens. Or we are in touch with someone who has craft like that, but it might not be outer space, and we'll get to that in a minute. But regardless, they don't need Bluebeam, and it's not good enough for what they're going to do. Now, there's in Christian circles, I will just say this. You can come back to me full screen for a second, Carter. Now, in Christian circles, often people who are thinking about the UFO alien question, there seem to be two camps. So there's they're demons camp. And aliens are demons, and it's all paranormal. And then there's the other camp where it's just like, hey, there's actual ships. They leave burn marks. There's people who are abducted. There's marks in people's skin and stuff. So this is not just a metaphysical phenomenon. The other, you can go to the other book that I mentioned before. So one, Axio Vaticana, definitely inspired me to write Zero G's. But the other book, there's two books, and that is Nick Redfern's Final Events. So Nick Redfern has a book called Final Events. It is fascinating, and I highly recommend you get it. The funnest thing for you could possibly do on a reading week would be to get Final Events and Axio Vaticana, read them together, and then read my series Zero G's for if you're interested in this topic we're talking about today, because it is all about the alien question and the future United World Government and the alien deception and what is happening. This book, you can see one of the characters that Final Events talks about there on the left, and it's my friend Ray Boucher. I ended up meeting Ray after I wrote Zero G's, and Ray is a amazing figure. But anyway, the tale that he tells, and maybe we'll get Ray onto a future episode, is that the Department of Defense contacted him because it was an Anglican priest and head of MUFON, a UFO investigation organization at the same time. Let me be succinct. They came to him with photographs of dead people in very sophisticated chairs, because what the Department of Defense was doing and investigating was using psychics to reach to the other side to contact alien, nefarious, paranormal entities, because apparently this can be done. Special chairs, psychics, I don't know. But they cataloged the messages they were getting back from these entities, and they were often very untruthful. They seemed to be scheming. They seemed to be liars. It was very strange. And then literally these people that were part of the program died in these chairs because the entity strangled them to death or whatever from the other side, crushed them, one of them, from the other side. So the Department of Defense was coming to someone with just a religious background and a conspiratorial UFO background to say, what sense does this make to you? So Ray Boucher tells a very fascinating story, and it is in the book Final Events. And it talks about a organization called the Collins Elite, which is made up of high-ranking military, medical, scientific figures, shadowy, unknown figures that the book Final Events talks about, that they ended up calling themselves the Collins Elite for reasons we won't get into here. But they studied this. These are high-ranking, that they had to keep themselves a secret because, the government would kick them out of their positions if they knew they were thinking this. But they secretly got together and they formed the opinion that since the 50s with Kenneth Arnold's sighting of the flying saucers and the UFO flap, I mean, if you don't know it, there was UFO squadrons like pictured over Washington, D.C. This is in the newspaper. This is common stuff that people forget about that happened. Like, this is what created the War of the Worlds phenomenon and all the sci-fi thing. Is there's just craft everywhere. People are getting pictures of them. All of a sudden, there's saucers everywhere. And so the Collins elite investigated this, and they surmised that it was a demonic invasion coming. And that if we did not, as the United States didn't have a forced theocracy, and sooner than better, we were going to be invaded by demons and overrun by Satan's army, I guess in flying saucers. That's just why the Final Events is a fascinating read. And my character, so in Zero G's Part 1, it opens up after the Great War, the Great Meltdown, when all of a sudden all the war stops. In Zero G's, this is some of the plot, and the characters have survived the 10-year worldwide meltdown of economy and war, and now all of a sudden their food is shipping again, and the lights are coming back on, and the war was stopped, the great 10-year meltdown war. Well, why? Because the messengers have arrived, and who's made contact with them? Well, the Pope and the Catholic Church, right? So all of this is unfolding in Zero G's, and that it is in the future, and the characters have exo armors. You can kind of see that on the screen. That is Garrett. That is his personal non-talking, non-annoying exo armor that actually changes modes. I worked with someone that does Star Wars designs to come up with the designs for their exo arms. Again, they're novels, but there's an illustrated section so you can kind of see the mechanics of it. But whatever. The point is the characters run into the Collins Elite in the second half of the book. And the Collins Elite have been tracking all of this for some time based on a lot that you could read in the Final Events. So going on to the next slide, this is... So what the Department of Defense was saying is there's nefarious entities on the other side, and their programmers were revealing that there's all these things over there. This is where a lot of believers who are asking the alien question say this is a demonic thing because they are lying, and the infamous Aleister Crowley there and Jack Parsons on the right there, some very notorious figures, actually conjured entities through the Babylon working. These are magic rituals that are disgusting, and the lamb figure that you see there with the big head appeared to them, and it just shows clearly that there's things in the dark spiritual world that we can bring into our world if we want. I mean, who out there doesn't know that this is possible? I mean, even in Daniel, the book of Daniel, it says that he was praying for the angelic help, and when finally the angel arrived to him, it was 21 days late because he was fighting the Prince of Persia. What is even going on behind the scenes when you have a archangel who can't get through to a saint because he's fighting some Prince of Persia? Who knows? It's a lamb or something. But this is true. There's a spiritual dark world. There's forces in heavenly places that we cannot see, and that's what we fight against. So reiterating, Carter, you can go on the next one. That's just a image to say that like this Collins Elite thought a forced theocracy was going to be necessary. And one more interesting thing, if you can go on to the next video there, that why we think why this is very interesting, and this is a metaphysical thing that's almost like magic, is there's a man, I just remember this clip from years ago, so I found it again. A man literally conjures an orb to come on live news, and I think it's fascinating. So Carter, the next video is this man. It starts at 1:14. It's about 2:47, but if you can get that to play and let me react to it, it is fascinating. I bet no one watching this has probably seen this.
They are sitting right up there.
We met up with Prophet Yahweh, seer of Yahweh, at Doolittle Park off Lake Mead. We picked the day, we picked the time.
They picked the day and they picked the time.
Everyone's going to think you're absolutely nuts.
Well, I thought I was absolutely nuts.
Until he says he saw UFOs. Over the years, 1,500 of them.
Can we make it 1,501 today? What do you think?
I'll try it.
He says the voice in his head told him to go public now. So we took him up on his offer, and we scanned the skies. Nothing but a few clouds. When the prophet started praying for a sighting, I wasn't exactly convinced.
I pray, oh Yahweh, that you send a sighting so that they know that I am not mentally ill. I am not a false prophet, like those who seek to kill me say
those that seek to kill him. That I bet he has an interesting story.
There it is.
You can barely see it, a white speck. Then another sighting.
There it is. I got it.
Photojournalist Jonathan Hawkins locks in on it. Let's take a closer look here. It's an orange sphere that
it doesn't
appeared
look
out
very
of
orange to me.
nowhere.
It looks mostly white.
I call the boss with an unexpected change in my story.
I can see it clear as day. In fact, it's bright.
And we're going to go on with this just another second because
It's
something is
moving
said
pretty
here in a
fast.
minute I think is
Going to
interesting.
Nellis Air Force Base.
It's going to the Air
wants
Force
be
Base.
seen.
We called Nellis to see what these things might be. Guess what? They didn't call us back. But this thing started coming back toward us.
It's coming toward us now, I think.
What?
See, it's coming up toward us.
Okay. I think we could probably,
Oh, man.
yeah, cut that right there.
Oh,
So,
hallelujah.
yeah. So, look, anybody watching that, you could see that that's not made up. The news organization didn't try to make that happen. They picked the time and the place, and this man can conjure orbs. I actually had my own orb experience that I will briefly disclose, visiting my good friend Timothy Alberino out in Montana. We were just coming over the last mountains to land at the airport, and I remember looking out and seeing a large silver orb keeping up with the plane about 200 yards out. And I literally looked forward in the plane. It's very vivid. And I was like, that's not anything, right? And I looked back again, and there was an orb. It was right out there. And I just remember hearing the voice saying, "You wanted to know everything." I swear I heard that, and I know less now than I did then, so I have no idea what that means. And I don't even know what to make of what I just watched here. This is a man who can conjure orbs, right? So this again, what is this masquerading as aliens? And is it all these, what could it be, right? And I understand how people think. Demons, in my opinion, are very obviously what they are. It is the unsanctioned creations that were destroyed in the biblical Noah's worldwide. It's not just our Bible, but every culture talks about the flood. There was unsanctioned, corrupt genetic entities that died in the deluge, and their spirits had nowhere to go because they were not sanctioned legal entities. And ancient scriptures, writings talk about that these spirits then were left to wander with no resting place, and that's what a demon is. So could that be what crushed those people to death in the DOD chairs? I don't doubt it. If those are from some of the entities we know about from before the flood, they don't like people, they eat people, and if their spirits are still around and communicating, what power do they have from the other side? That's up for debate. But the question is then, how can metaphysical and these things magically appearing like conjured orbs exist at the same time as clang your fist on them metal craft? Okay, can they exist both at the same time? My answer is yes. The fact that people all over the world have seen saucers, have pictures of saucers, we have videos of these saucers. Now we have military fighter jets taking pictures of the Tic Tac racing way, way fast, defying gravity, and all of the thousands, tens of thousands, I don't know if it's in the 100,000s, but, and you have the eyewitness. I mean, you're looking at this image here. You're like, well, who is that? So this is Admiral Byrd. And in 1946, if you know your dates and times, World War II ended in 1945. So in 1946, there was a massive expedition. And we can see if we can get Glitchy McBoltface to just tell us. Glitchy, tell us about Operation High Jump and also known as Task Force 68. Who was in charge of that? What happened? What was the conspiratorial stories behind? And why does this operation live in infamy?
Absolutely. Let's dive into that. So Operation High Jump, or Task Force 68, was this U.S. Navy mission to Antarctica that took place in the late 1940s, right after World War II. It was led by Admiral Richard Byrd, and officially it was all about establishing a research base and training personnel in cold weather. But, of course, the conspiracy theories say otherwise. A lot of people believe it was really about investigating secret Nazi bases, or even potential encounters with unknown flying objects. So it's got this whole aura of mystery, and that's why it kind of lives on in infamy. People think there's a lot more to the story than what the official records say. So
well, didn't Admiral Byrd said many conspiratorial things, Glitch? Didn't he say that now there's craft that can fly pole to pole in seconds?
Oh, absolutely, Darren. Yeah, Admiral Byrd is often quoted in those conspiracy circles for supposedly mentioning craft that could travel from pole to pole incredibly fast, way beyond the technology of the time. So that definitely adds another layer of intrigue to Operation High Jump's legacy.
All right, well,
Whether he
Glitchy,
really
I
said
mean, like literally, what we're saying is that in 1946, of all dates, we sent a large military contingent down there headed by our top guy, and they come back with missing ships, damaged ships, and these tales. I don't like to jump on every conspiracy theory, although they're fun. This is very believable to me. And he said in interviews, Admiral Byrd has said that there's still land down past the ice wall that's as big as North America yet to be explored. Right?
You got it, Darren. Yeah, it certainly does make for a really intriguing story. Admiral Byrd did indeed give some interviews where he talked about these vast, unexplored lands beyond the ice. And a lot of people took that as fuel for all kinds of theories. And yeah, when you add in the missing ships and the damage, it's definitely one of those stories that's hard not to find at least a bit believable. So I'm right there.
Okay, enough of Glitchy. Go to power down mode. They're glitch, but so to me, if these go on to the next image, this is just unbelievable. Like, I mean, is it believable? So in this, and I'm going to credit Gen 6 production. So if the great Steve Quayle, I work with Steve. I am his editor, designer for SQ Private Briefings. If you go to gen6.com and look at the blog there, you can sign up for multiple different newsletters for the SQ Private Briefings. It is a weekly newsletter from Steve that I edit and sometimes write and chime in on. But this illustration, I think, was commissioned by Steve to kind of represent what this would literally look like, either in Admiral Byrd's time or more modern times, like literally like saucer craft coming out of the water and fighting with ships. Do I believe that this is possible? Yes, I do. And now do I think it's, if I can dare say the word Nazis, if we're just talking about an historical context, did some Nazis escape down there? It's called New Schwabenland, and they had a base. Or is that in South America? Did they run into what we know as the Palladians, the Nordics, the good aliens, right? And they taught them. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that go on about at the end of the war, Hitler had refused to give up in making contact with them, and they helped him make anti-gravity saucer craft by the end of the war, and there's a lot of evidence. Did Admiral Byrd run into them down there? Did he run into the Palladians? Did he run into Nazis working with the Palladians? Are we really talking about this on the air? Well, thank goodness the internet is still up. We can still talk about these things. So going on to the next thing, I mean, I'm sure that's just an illustration there of a German saucer craft. There's the Bell experiment that we'll have a episode on that points to Project Looking Glass. If you guys don't know about the Bell Project and Looking Glass, and Bob Lazar mentioning it, we're going to get into Looking Glass at some point, but it's a tangled web. Let's go on, because we cannot take forever on this. We have the second biggest conspiracy theory ever to get to, and is the seed of the serpent and how this ties into disclosure. Well, right here is a prominent figure, Dr. Stephen Greer, in the early 2000s came out with what he called the Disclosure Project. And you have to understand, he made a massive, major push to get together over 24 witnesses from retired military personnel, FAA officials, civilian contractors, intelligence communities. These were top cats who had been in very, very, very important, not Johnny-come-latelys, as Tom Horn used to say, but these were really, really sophisticated individuals to first go in front of the National Press Club with a press conference, and then beseech Congress, and eventually they got to Congress to say, hey, we saw these things. We saw craft going around our missile launches doing little red light tests on missiles defying gravity, like the missile's going as fast as it can at Mach whatever, and this craft is going around taking readings. I saw it on the monitor. What do we do with this? Or I was in a UFO craft, or I was this and I was that. Congress, can you? We know you know something. So that's what Stephen Greer's Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project was all about. Getting the government to say, okay, you got us. You got us. You guys have seen this stuff, and here's what it is. We'll tell you what we're going to declassify everything. We're going to tell you what you know. Are you kidding? I mean, good night. I feel for some people. You can go on to the next slide. I feel for some people, and maybe he'll crack it. But my good friend, Congressman Eric Burleson of Missouri, who I was recently at NEFCOM in Bozeman, Montana with Timothy Alberino. Eric, Congressman Burleson, made it out there, and he is the UFO congressman, right? He is pushing President Trump and others in the government for disclosure. Talk about trying to get blood from a stone. How in the world ever going to get them to admit, whether he has whistleblowers come forth, say, I was in a UFO crash retrieval program. Here's a film of it. Here's what we saw. I mean, honestly, I think it could just go as simple as President Trump or them way higher than Trump. It's like, hey, that pesky Burleson is at it again. He's saying he wants disclosure. He wants us to admit about this. I mean, all they have to do is say it's a matter of national security and it's about safety and of the United States, and they're not going to let out anything. But all the way back in 2001 is when Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project had its big push. And so we're all the way from 2001 all the way to now. And are we any closer to disclosure? Do you guys feel like the government's any closer to letting in? I know some of you do. Maybe I'm optimistic. Again, going to the next thing, again, that big question of when in Robotech, war ravaged the earth at that time when a big alien spaceship shows up and then all peace is called. I still think, to me, it's going to, if you're holding your breath for official disclosure, it's going to come when out of a big crisis, when they've gotten rid of a lot of people and a lot of things have been melted down that they don't want in the new world, the new world order in the United Earth government. So whatever they're going to do, they're going to make a lot of trouble, and then disclosure is going to hit. That is my opinion. So here we go. Here's the next clip that's coming up from Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project, and I think he's a very interesting character. It's Sergeant Clifford Stone, and we're going to listen to the first, minute 36 of this, okay? I think it's fast. Please listen to this because we're going to pick apart several things that Sergeant Stone says in this clip. And most of you probably haven't seen this. So it's not long. So let's listen to Clifford Stone here for just a second.
Describe what they look like.
I could, but it would probably take a whole lot of time. The reason I state that, when I got out in 1989, we had cataloged 57 different species.
Look at that guy nod behind him
You have individuals that
darn
look very
aliens
much like
again.
you and myself that could walk among us, and you
Yep,
wouldn't even
he
notice
says,
the difference.
nodding his head.
Except for some of the things that they might be able to go ahead, even in a dark room, and touch an object and go ahead and identify what color that object might be. They would have a heightened sense of smell, sight, hearing. The situation.
There's Dr. Stephen Greer at the podium.
Various types of what we normally call grays. We didn't call them grays in the military, but you had at least 3 types of the grays. You had some that were much taller than we were.
Much taller.
The unique thing that I'd like to point out for the most part is that the entities that we did catalog were in fact humanoid. Now this created a situation
with the guy nodding head in the background again.
The scientific community was trying to figure out why that would be the case, because you would expect that if life evolved on other planets, that they would take on some type
You'd
of
expect
other,
that, wouldn't you?
Being, so to speak, not necessarily look humanoid or be bipedal such as we are.
Right.
But
why do they all look humanoid?
We got quite a
Except
few
for
of the
the grays.
species out there that are humanoid in appearance, and that creates a question that yet has to
Okay,
be
let's
answered
talk
by
about that
science.
question. Stop it there, Carter. Okay, so that's chock full of fun stuff. So you can see that this isn't someone at home with an iPhone telling you that there's aliens, right? You can see that this was at the National Press Club. You can see that this is dudes who are telling the truth. Again, turn your intuition liar meter up on high. Is that guy telling the truth? Is he telling the truth? When that guy in background goes, yep, the darn aliens again, boy, all those 57 aliens or whatever. He's just like, they know this is common. It's like now that we know that man-eating giants were a problem all over the earth. When you're hearing about the Nephilim and the giants now, it's like, really? People are just now hearing about this? It's so common knowledge that giant skeletons were found all over this country before they were hidden away, right? It's just boring to hear about it now. That's the way these guys, 57 cataloged species. It was his job to probably do it, but let's pick it apart. He says, so there's 3 known types of the grays, and there's one much taller than us. And for the most part, he even said that all the rest seem to be humanoid. They just kind of have some special powers. But for the most part, you've got the humanoids and 3 types of grays. And that's what he said, and I absolutely believe it. And they are stumped as to why an outer space aliens would fall into these categories. these two categories, the very humanoid-like, the tall whites, or the Palladians, and then you've got the couple types of the grays, right? Well, maybe we can dive into that a little bit. But I just think it's amazing. He's just talking about these alien beings, like he's talking about his family coming over for Thanksgiving last week. It's like, oh yeah, we got that guy nodding in the background. So let's get into these tall grays. Some that are there are several types of the grays. We know that they're short grays. I have theories on the short grays that people see in abduction scenarios. This comment, we're not going to get into the short grays today. The tall grays, however, some that are much taller than us. Let's dive into those quickly and move along fast. A picture of Clifford Stone there with the guy in the background. I mean, that guy's telling the truth. Again, now to somebody else who's telling the truth, Carter, move on to the next slide, is that something, if you don't know about what the Dulce Wars are, Dulce, New Mexico, there is a character, the late Phil Schneider, who you can still find these clips that I'm going to play for you. He's still out. These are still on YouTube. And I will tell you the term to search to see this full thing. Is the man without flaw? No. Is he? But he's telling the truth. And the truth is that he's seen the tall grays as well. And you can see by his hand there, he didn't fare so well in the encounter. So in the Dulce Wars, he's going to tell us in his own words what happened. But this was a man who's a geologist and an engineer with rhyolite, whatever, I can't pronounce it, top clearance. I don't know if that's beyond black or whatever it is. I don't claim to know these clearance levels. But he was one of a few people who were digging deep underground military bases that I'm sure drug and black money go to pay for to the tune of $5 billion each. It's probably by the time we're now at 2025, they probably cost $5 trillion each. But there's like 3,500 deep underground military bases all over the world, right? Because they know something's coming and they're using black money and drug money and whatever else to build these things. And Phil Schneider was one of the ones that was in charge of this. So Carter, we're gonna come up to this next video clip here of Phil Schneider. And some of these are a bit long, but honestly, if you have never heard this, please don't fast forward. This will be the longest part of this presentation, but it points to the second largest conspiracy theory that you can possibly imagine. And if you don't watch this, you're not going to grasp it when I tell you, reveal this, right?
The unbelievable part, I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. It's a biological laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hollowed out underground. Then to the southwest of that, we were in the process of the early stages of building. We drilled 4 large tunnel-like holes. Some of them ran 2.5 miles under the surface. Number of the original wells or drilling machines that were used were at the rate of 2 miles a day. It was fairly rapid. The equipment kept coming up broken. So we wanted to go down, we wanted to send somebody down there, a human observer, or human observers in this case, to find out what was going on. Well, to our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up. The gig was up. First of all, I knew all about the alien agenda.
He knew about the alien agenda. Look at his hand.
The large alien grays had been encamped there for, as best as believed possible, about 400 or 500 years.
Interesting timing. I'm surely that's what Clifford Stone is talking about, the grays that are taller than us.
We drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out. As
black
soon as
sooty
the
air.
first hole was sunk and all this soot came up. And,
listen to that.
Well, that's when it all the hell broke loose, really. All started. Anyway, after we drilled all 4 holes, it took about 2 days to drill all 4 of them. And when you build an underground base, you drill 4 basic holes, and then you build called stopes or cross-member holes across, and then you use blasting equipment, special blasting equipment by the analyzation of the rock formation, and you literally blast out or tunnel out or deflagrate or melt rock out.
Melt rock. We'll get to that in a second.
That are required for this underground base. Well, in this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot-tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine. The person was or the entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time. I reached for my pistol. At that time, I was an engineer. I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns that all the sea spray and the yellow fruit and all the outer perimeter and inner perimeter security people carried. I carried a little Walter PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This is in late August of 1979.
He's wrapping up here. We're going to break this up into a couple things, because I know the attention spans are short, but listen to this.
You got a regular clothes on, plus you're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and you're reaching for a gun. It's not the easiest thing to do, and then to pop a clip in it and start shooting. And I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process.
Okay. We're going to break that up. So let's show that in the next picture there. So he's talking about drilling and deflagrating rock, melting rock. You can see that, and if you look at this, it's very easy to find the patents for these types of things. I think it's the Rand Corporation. Don't quote me on that, but like there's drillers that just melt rock to where there's no debris. That's what that term means. And there you can kind of see his wound. We're going to get to a second. That's his hand wasn't the only thing that was damaged in that conflict. And maybe we'll get to. I guess we could I just want people to see the tunnels, and now play the second part of that, Carter. That is.
One of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish.
That's the wound that we saw just a second ago.
Burnt my fingers right off of me, and it was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. Completely crispy crittered my left foot. Burnt the shoe right off of me. All I remember is the smoking remains, and I'm still conscious, but in and out of, I didn't remember much. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the basket and hit the button and took me up. And I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. I'm forever indebted.
I don't know how far
we lost his life.
Oh, wait. Keep going.
66 Secret Service agents.
66 men died
Green Berets,
in the Dulce
Black
Wars.
Berets, crack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien.
Okay, to cut it there. So the militaries of the world, I'm going to look into the camera there just to tell you. Obviously, this man is telling the truth. If you cannot see that he's telling the truth, he was open like a fish. He blew his toenails off. He lost his hand, and he's very angry about it. He's dead now, by the way. They tried to kill him 12 times, and they got him on the 13th time. No wonder, because this was before the age of the internet, which I'm just speaking to you. I mean, heavens knows why I'm saying this and showing this. I hope I'm around for the next episode. But I guess this was in the day and the age that he was talking to masses of people and gathering. He was getting a movement going, and they didn't like that. And he had top clearance, inside clearance, and you don't do that, so he's no longer with us. But clearly the man is telling the truth. And telling the truth about what, if we can digest all of this? We see so much crazy stuff in this day and age. If this is the truth, are we really digesting it here? Militaries of the world have been in constant conflict. And the only thing that he probably got wrong is he's saying the outer space alien there at the end, because I do not think that's what that is at all. They are under the ground. And what we're talking about here is what they're describing is something that's like this: a 7-foot-tall, long-necked alien gray. And there's over to the right is someone who's been cataloging what these things look like, and we're just matching up to, if there's some nerdy types out there, they're going to say, isn't that like the Star Wars thing from the Attack of the Clones, the Camoians or something? Yes, that's exactly it. Do you think that's by accident? Look at me. Do you think that that's by accident that Star Wars or whatever would go so close to this description you can see on the right of what these things are? Or could it be that they put it right in your face and that these things probably wanted to be in a movie? We can't hardly get into that. This is kind of the Camoians or whatever in Star Wars Attack of the Clones are apparently modeled after the female of this tall gray. And you can see whatever over there to the tall right or the far right. And then the left, apparently, I have other witnesses that I have gathered and talked to other than Phil Schneider who have seen these things, seen them. What they describe is that the males that you can see on the left there, may not be what this looks like. This is just an attempt, right? That they are more than a match for male humans. Could not stand up to them. They sort of have armor, right? They have these these spikes with the plume things on their head. And then the other illustration is these people have seen older ones. As they get older, they lose the fanciness of the plumage. It becomes like these bony spikes, almost like a fish, and their neck actually gets shorter. This is the details that I've been given. And who knows if his belt thing there is what he waved his hand in front of that blew Phil Schneider's hand off or whatever their weaponry. But, so I don't, you just come totally back to me. I hear myself. I do. I'm talking about lizard people under the ground, right? We're having a serious discussion about lizard people under the ground. And I can go back to, tabloids that I used to see in the supermarket with my mother going through the checkout, and it would be like Bat Boy screaming on the cover of it and lizard people under the ground. I mean, there's rumors and conspiracy theories that Los Angeles was built over a lizard people city under the catacombs. There's evidence to suggest that. So what I'm doing today is putting together the fact that the Catholic Church and other forces are prepping us for alien disclosure, right? How are they going to do that? How are they going to pull it off? It's not going to be blue beam. It's going to be done with actual craft. But when is that? After conflict to their own ends. But do you realize that they would have, if these creatures exist, and Phil Schneider said they are flesh and blood, you can kill them, they die. Do you realize that if we have craft that we could land somewhere, that they could parade out these tall grays either alive or dead as irrefutable evidence that there's aliens from the Reticuli constellation or whatever? They just tell us what they want to tell us, and they just tell us until we believe it, until everybody around the water cooler is going, I wasn't going to believe that nonsense. Are you kidding? But look they got the body. They let this guy have examined it. There's bodies. And they heaven forbid they show them walking around, which people have seen them walking around. I know people. And we will get, if I do a subscription service, I can talk about more of these behind a firewall or something, and maybe we'll do that. It's my other witnesses, my other sources. I've got tales and stories. Believe me, I know people. And but for what we do know already, witnesses are suggesting these are actual creatures. You saw that war has been going on by all militaries for a long, long, long time. So isn't this, in fact, aren't they like, and there's stories of nefarious human forces doing dirty deals with them to get the technology that they know is under the ground. And these things trade, unspeakable things. The evil people of this world are in relationship with these reptilians. Deep underground military bases, the last couple floors, these things are actively walking around. But of course, they keep that hidden from view. And do you put it past them to, in the great deception, the great falling away? Why do you think so many Christian believers or religious peoples are going to have a falling away and not believe in God anymore? Because they're going to march out our creators, right? They're going to march out the good aliens that look like us, the engineers that seeded life here at one time. And oh, wait, there's bad guys. As Werner von Braun said, is the great last deception. They're going to tell us the good-looking human ones are going to tell us, oh, you want to know who our real enemies are? You want to know who your real enemies are? It's the grays, and they're from this, and they were our parasites. And who knows, we had to get rid of their eggs on a spaceship a long time ago, just like the alien plot. So if this war has been going on, are they biting our heels from the ground And aren't the men of valor who have to go into caves and kill things that go bump in the night, the secret men of valor? Hopefully some of you are watching. Aren't you stomping on their heads? Aren't you? So that's where we come to the second biggest conspiracy theory ever. So the second biggest conspiracy theory ever, and I lean heavily towards this one because of the testimony of the late Phil Schneider, of Clifford Stone, of other people who have seen these. There's a war going on under the ground, and these are real, I believe, a terrestrial species that reproduces and can be shot and killed. This isn't demons. Please listen to this. This is seed that's reproducible. So in speaking of that, in Genesis 3:1, it does say, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. Not any of the other, and not any, not all of the beasts God had made. It was more subtle. No, it says the serpent was more subtle than any beast God made. The serpent was more subtle than any beast God made, is really what it says. So the curse that happens after that, the serpent, whatever it is, beguiles Eve and gets her to do whatever it is he got her to do. Whatever it is, that's not the debate here. But his curse is, and dust shall ye eat all the days of your life, and humans shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise their heel. So think about this. Think about what we're saying here. These tall grays that are so matter-of-factly talked about by Clifford Stone and the guy nodding his head. Oh yeah, there's some grays that are much taller than us, shown in movies, shown by multiple people who blew Phil Schneider's head up, that are living under, that they were relegated to below the surface of the earth. Could they have possibly, if Lucifer was cast down to earth here, as in the biblical narrative, couldn't they have been allowed on the surface then? And whatever happened to the curse, their curse was to breathe an air mixture of stinky, sooty sulfur air and crawl on their bellies through rocky tunnels forever. Pausing to let you consider that. Listen, what if the serpent and the metaphor and that you will crawl on your belly and the dust of the earth, that they were no longer allowed to sun themselves on the surface. They are relegated to the catacombs, and then the Creator gives man dominion over the face of the earth because they were the dominant species before man was created in the image of God. And so they are not allowed up here anymore. So there's going to be a constant war between the seed of man and the seed of the serpent, to which most of it has been hidden from us, right? Most of it has been absolutely hidden. And you can go to the next.
We drilled holes.
So back
right
to
on
Phil
top of
Schneider
that.
for a second.
All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up. And,
okay, cut that.
Well, that's when all the hell broke loose.
Okay,
really.
so listen, cut that. So all hell broke loose when they drilled those holes, and the black sooty air came all out from where they are. So that's what they breathed down there. There's other witnesses to say that they had one in a place one time, and they had to adjust the air for it. It was just squeaking. It couldn't hardly communicate because it needed to have the subterranean air in order to breathe. What I find interesting there, if we can go to the image of the cloud again, is that Revelation 9:2-3 says, the bottomless pit is open, and smoke like the smoke of a great furnace flows out of the pit. And the sun and the atmosphere were darkened by smoke from the pit. Then out of the smoke came locusts, quote unquote, upon the earth, and the power to hurt was given to them. And that other image I think is very interesting from Mel Gibson's Signs movie, that the alien at the end of that has some sort of poison quill thing that he threatens the boy with. Has Mel Gibson tried to tell us truths before that he's gotten into big trouble for? I'll leave that to you. But this image then shows smoke from the bottomless pit or whatever. And what could possibly be, if this conspiracy theory is to be fathomed, the seed of the serpent is some sort of tall gray thing that's a subterranean entity that's been having war with man, and does it have the power to sting for a time, as alluded to in the book of Revelation? So the bottom line is, let me wrap this up. Will the powers that be, you can go on to the next slide. use an immense crisis to pull the alien card and to pull the world out of famine and crisis. And then the arriving alien saviors, they're going to be glowing. Who knows if they're going to have glowing eyes? Who knows what they have done to them genetically? Are they perhaps an actual descendant of the Nephilim that escaped off world in time, that has been in Antarctica, who now they have been in contact with, that will help them with the great deception at the end, and they will appear at some sort of press conference. And who can refute this? So a 7-foot-tall humanoid walks out. He said that almost all of the other species they investigated were humanoid. They say, we almost lost our world to the alien grays all these years ago. And if you only join forces with us and do exactly what we say, then you can save your own world, because they're all over. They're embedded all over your world. Look at, there's nests of them all over in the ground, and they'll produce evidence to show that this is, and then they'll declassify. Well, it looks like there's been a war going on by all the militaries. It looks like these grays have been infested. They are like a parasite. This is exactly what the Pleiadians are telling us. Oh my goodness. And they'll disclose just enough of this to be, who can refute this? Who can refute when you have ships, when you have glowing blonde-haired Pleiadians, when you have alien grays? They are going to weave a web of lies that's irrefutable. And do you think there's going to be a great falling away? The engineers from Prometheus, they seeded life here. They're going to say, let me tell you exactly where you come from. I know you might have questions, but we created you. We are the Anunnaki, or we were created by them. And here's all the evidence. And here's the bad guys. And Werner von Braun's prediction is that the last card is going to be, we're going to need to make space-based weapons against the aliens, right? The Greys. And who knows? From what I understand, the Greys have no ships of their own. Nothing. It'll be complete fabricated lie. They'll make up a ship that they built. They'll say these are their warships. Everybody will be biting their nails off on all. So here, let's tie it all together as we wrap up this episode. To me, how can you have a bigger conspiracy than this, other than our Tartarian mud flood one that I reveal at the end there, which I don't even know about yet? How can you have something bigger than this is where things are going? That literally the press conference to say we're not alone. Irrefutable evidence of beings that they've kept hidden. Admiral Byrd ran into him. Phil Schneider ran into him. Those in the know. This is why the Geisinger Unfiltered, Can the World Heal? Can you get ready for this deception where there is irrefutable evidence that there's these entities and you're seeing ships, but yet your faith is unshakable, right? Because you know that this is the great deception. This is the great falling away. And that no matter what they do, you're going to know the truth and you're not going to fall for it. So I feel honored to have played Clifford Stone and especially Phil Schneider here today, so that if any of you out there are watching this and never seen that, you can see the Phil Schneider clip, and this is where I'll close for today. If Carter decides to keep this, you can search Phil Schneider, that's SCHNEIDER, 1 of 7 Dulce, DULCE, alien confrontation, and there's 7 parts to it. So Phil Schneider, 1 of 7 Dulce, alien confrontation. You can see that on YouTube still. Yeah, and I encourage you to do that and try to put the pieces together yourself. Thank you.